So if you just slapped your EBMX X9000 and you want to know how to set it up, this is our how-to on the phone app. Step one, you obviously need a phone. Step two, make sure you plug in the Bluetooth dongle. And last one, and definitely required, is make sure your bike is on a stand. So we're gonna have the rear wheel moving, we're gonna check which direction the motor goes. So we're definitely gonna need it up on a stand. Don't use a case of beer, don't use a bit of cardboard, use something that's solid, don't use a friend. Okay, so first thing you're gonna do is turn the bike on, open up your app. You don't need to turn on your SW102 display at this point. Basically, if you don't have 800 bikes in your shed, only one should turn up with the EBMX right here. So click on that, you'll end up with this nice screen at the start. So the first thing you might want to do is just check what your display does when you do turn your SW102 on. So once you've turned on your bike, turn your SW102 display, and basically what you should have, if you've already set up your bike, you'll notice that if you're in race, it will come up race. To check your communications, normally what I do is basically I'll just push up and down on the mode button, and you'll literally see the these three indicators just here and here pop up. And obviously if we go down to reverse, we'll see R turn up on the screen. So we know we're connected, we know everything's working. So now you're connected and you've seen everything's all right, click on general. The first thing you want to look at is your bike type. So this is a Suron Lightbeat, you'll see I've got it selected there. My motor type, I'm running a KO RS motor currently. And then once you've selected that, you basically want to go into your battery type. So for me, I'm running a 20S battery, and if I click on this, you see you've got 16S, 20S, 22S, and 24S. So if you're not aware, a 16S is basically 60 volt, and a 20S is 72 volt, and so on. You'll notice as well, where I've selected 20S, there's a battery model, and if you click on here, you've basically got all the EBMX selected here. If you are running, a 72 volt battery and you are running a stock harness, do click that setting. It's basically gonna have like maximum limits put into it. I'm on a custom battery and I do have an upgraded wiring loom, which is why I'm on the unlimited setting, which you can see there, unlimited, so I'm not limited. I can basically raise or lower these amps as far as I need to. So when we come over to here, we've got street mode battery current and your race mode battery current. They're your two main modes that you can switch between. I don't use street mode, so you'll see it set at 150 amp. Race mode is the only mode I use, and I've got that set to 295 amps, which is pretty much the limit of my battery. Cool, so coming over to gear ratios. So you've got your wheel diameter. Basically, you just measure that with a tape measure and put that in. The gear ratios, we're gonna flash up on the screen just so you can see just kind of a rough guide for what they are with different sprocket sizes that are available. Temperature units, we're in Australia, so we're metric. And speed units, kilometers per hour, obviously metric again. You can also change your motor direction here. So you see I've got anti-clockwise selected. So that's what I want in this case, and the stock reverse switch. So if you keep your Eco or EP mode button, you can basically use that as a reverse switch. So instead of having it on the display like I do here, basically you can use that button for that reverse mode instead of going through the display to trigger reverse. So once you've done that, basically what you do is you want to essentially look through it all, make sure you're happy with it. So just remember, if you do scroll down like this, you actually reset the current settings that are in here, and anything that you've written below where you can't physically see will be overwritten. And then if you come down here like this to go up, you've reset everything, then you click save. Basically anything you put in will just be gone and you'll need to start again. So just remember, when you are down here and you do scroll up gently, don't pull and hold, otherwise you will reset all the settings. So once you've done that and you've got everything sorted, click save. So once you've gone through the general settings and you're happy with that, it's kind of over to your throttle first. So we're now in the throttle menu. So basically twist throttle, you want that as acceleration. That literally turns on your throttle. If you need to turn your throttle off for any reason, you can turn it off there. And if you actually scroll down, you'll see just here, you'll see regen brake. You can click on this and actually turn this to acceleration. So if you do damage your throttle, that's where you literally click on this. You click on acceleration and it'll be set there. You'll notice I keep resetting here, but that's because I don't want to save any settings. Coming back down the throttle menu, basically twist throttle, you want that on acceleration. Off throttle regen. So that's basically when you have the regen when you're riding your bike and you let off the throttle and you still have that bit of regen that you're kind of used to. So you can have normal regen throttle and your regen brake working at the same time with this controller. So I've got that on. I personally run that at 10%. It's kind of similar to that 2-stroke vibe where there isn't much lag on the bike. That's generally how I like it. You can raise it or lower it to suit your preference really. Thumb throttle, regen brake, that's how you want that set up. Once again, like I said, you can change that to accelerator if you need to, or acceleration in this case. You've got your ramping times. I've left all this default. The only thing that I've ever changed in this is made sure that we're on polynormal and obviously made the input deadband to 4. I found that the default 3 basically just doesn't have enough deadband for where me and Truett ride, where it's really bumpy, so 4% is the deadband that I use there. So now on the controller calibration screen, pretty much just go from the top to the bottom. So twist throttle, it'll run you through a wizard. I'm not going to show how that works, but you'll see that it's kind of automatic and it tells you what to do. The process is pretty easy. My throttle was a 0 to 5 volt throttle, so I'm back on the Domino with this bike now. So basically, that's the voltage range of a Domino throttle. You'll find a Suron throttle kind of starts at 90 volts and ends around 3.9 generally. Thumb throttle, this is all set from factory. If you do get an error on your display, it could be that the thumb throttle wasn't set up correctly. So it's just a matter of just going through the setup on the thumb throttle and making sure that's okay as well. You'll see you've got your motor temperature cutoff here. You can change these. So if you need a lower, if you want a lower motor temp, you can definitely have a lower motor temp. If you want something that's higher, you can obviously adjust that as well. So field weakening, I run 65% on this current map. Some people want to run 100%. It depends how much top end speed you want. So normally I'm after throttle feel versus top end speed. And I find if you have a lot of field weakening, you kind of lose a bit of like throttle feel. Not so much on this controller, but it's just something I know it makes it seem more snappy, kind of with a little bit less field weakening. So now onto kind of the fun stuff and the stuff that really matters. So you may have already set all this up and try to twist your throttle and your bike does heaps of weird things with its wheel. That's actually meant to happen, and it just means that the Hall sensors aren't calibrated. So the next thing that you want to do is essentially go through the Hall sensor calibration. It basically runs a wizard, and this is where you definitely need the bike up on a stand. So if you watch here, the rear wheel is going to move and it's going to detect the holes for us. So once that's done, you basically want to click save on that and you should be able to spin your motor and it works. So next up, once it's kind of working and you've got your wheel moving and it seems nice and smooth, so give it some gentle throttle and make sure the wheel is moving nice and smooth and it's doing what you want. Then it's time for your mode set up, and that's kind of where the magic really happens. So once we're in here, pretty much I'm going to set up race mode because that's normally what I use, and you can kind of see what I've got set up here. So these are essentially sliders. So you're going to have your 3 modes. So you'll see where it says power level kilowatts. You've got low, mid and high. Low is obviously 1, 2 is mid, 3 is high. So with this, what you want to do is basically move your sliders to what you want. So for instance, on mine, I'm currently obviously at about 18 kilowatt. I find these sliders a little bit difficult to kind of get what you need, but they're not too bad if you've kind of got a smooth finger, I guess. Move these to where you want, and then up to your battery current. So I run a KORS motor, so I can run 800 phase and I can run high phase amps, and I do. So you'll notice that in the motor current mode, and this is your phase amps, so don't confuse this with battery amps here, but basically in this section here, I've just set it to 500 for my first mode, 551 for my second, and 800 for your high mode. After motor current, you'll see reverse strength, and you're like, what? What does that mean? Well, what that means is it's the reverse strength when you're in reverse gear. The factory default is really, really quite dull, so it's worth basically, I like it at 90 because I feel like that's where it kind of needs to be to even move me. So I'm 85 kilos, so probably a good idea to kind of put it at around that 90 mark. It doesn't come on super, super fast, but it's still what you'd expect from a reverse gear. So peripherals. If you want to look through here, you'll notice there's brake sensor, tilt sensor, and your stand sensor. So kickstand, your tilt sensor, most people are going to have that removed, and most people are probably going to have the kickstand sensor removed, or it's broken on them. I know me and Truett have snapped ours in the bush, so that's kind of the first kind of thing to go. Everyone removes brake sensors for wheel stands, so they're probably going to be gone anyway. But if you do want to turn any of these on, basically just click them on, those sensors will be on, and they will obviously cut the motor or not operate the bike if they are active at the time. You'll notice further down you've got your 12 volt, 5 amp supply. Basically, this is the peripherals that you have. So if you do have a coolant pump, you could turn that on. And also you've got those two outputs you'll see further down just around here that you can turn these on as well if you need to. So you might have an auxiliary, maybe a headlight, that's how you would control them. Boom! So that's your setup on your EBMX X9000 with the app. Would be epic if you liked, even cooler if you subscribed. Let us know what you thought about this in the comments. See you in the next one.